Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Empowered Pause. I am your host, Rachel Chinoa J. Before we get started, as usual, I'm going to just give you a little bit of information about Speak Initiative, and then we'll jump into today's topic of holidays and mental health, or managing your mental health during the holiday season. So, Speak Initiative is a nonprofit organization that stands in the gap for with people who are experiencing mental health challenges or who have had past suicidal ideations. Speak actually stands for Suicide Prevention through Empowerment, Action, and Kindness. And our mission is to reduce the stigma around suicide and mental health in the Black and Brown community so that we can allow our partners to speak, be heard, and live fully. So that's who we are at Speak Initiative. And we're here pretty much every Wednesday taking maybe 10 to 15 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer, just to pause and to check in to see how people are actually doing during the week and offer some advice or some information that we've accumulated or we found that may be helpful during the time. Right. So again, today we are talking about uh, ways to manage your mental health around the holidays. These tips come from an article that I recently came upon, and I thought it was really interesting. So, of course, anything that I feel is imperative to mental health, I will try to present here. Right. So, I'm just going to get into it. I'm not going to read the article verbatim. However, I will touch on a couple of specific parts of it that I thought were really helpful. So, of course, we all know that, well, I know, I don't know if anyone else knows, that my days aren't as merry and bright every day during this time of year. And it could be a variety of reasons for that. It could be your social calendar that may be jam packed, deadlines at work, the loss of a loved one, sunless winter days. You know, it gets dark so early now, or it could be all of the above. You can be experiencing all of these things at one time or at the same time. And I understand how heavy it can actually be. According to the American Psychological Association, 38% of people surveyed said their stress increased during the holiday season. And increased stress can lead to physical illness, it can lead to depression, anxiety, substance misuse. And a lot of the reasons behind that could be a lack of time, financial pressures that come up during this time of year, gift giving because of expectations from other people around you, and then family gatherings. Those can create a sense of stress that makes people, some people like me, kind of don't want to deal with the holidays, right? And to actually make matters worse, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI, noted that 64% of individuals living with a mental illness felt that their conditions worsened around the holidays. That's a lot of people. 64% is a very high number. So there are ways that we can prepare ourselves and deflect some of those things that increase our stress during the holiday season. So what I'm going to do is go through a couple of things that, or a couple of feelings that may be coming up, and then things that we can actually do about them. So the first one is when you're lacking the holiday spirit. You know, sometimes you can be, or being surrounded by cheeriness, it can be stigmatizing when you don't feel the same level of enthusiasm, right? Everyone's walking around, they're getting excited, they're shopping, people are decorating, the cheer is in the air, you smell the roasted nuts from the street vendors, all of that's happening in New York City. And it can be a little pressure to be social. There's pressure associated with being happy and being jubilant. And it can make it feel difficult to speak up, right? If you don't feel like that, and the majority of everyone else, or the majority of people you're around, are feeling that way, it can make you feel left out, right? And if your traditions aren't the dominant ones and they may not be on a display as much as other traditions are, it can make you feel left out, right? What can you do about that? Well, the first thing you can do is recognize that you don't need to force yourself to feel anything. You don't have to force yourself to be happy. You don't have to force yourself to pretend that you want to participate in all of the activities going on. It's good to acknowledge how you're feeling. And even if you're feeling unjoyful, that's okay. Remember that you're not alone when you're feeling like that. You are not the only person that is feeling unjoyful or maybe a little removed from the holiday cheer. That's okay, right? What you want to do, however, is to avoid numbing and avoid feelings, feeling like you want to numb down and isolate and worsen your anxiety or your depression by using substances or alcohol. Some people may pick up more drinking during this time of year because there's so much celebration and because there's so much cheer. It gives some people a reason to go out and drink more because we're celebrating. And then we think that that can calm the anxiety, but sometimes it actually makes it worse, right? Another thing you can do is surround yourself with people who feel similarly, right? Celebrate your traditions or create new ones. You don't have to do what has always been done. You can do something different for yourself that you will actually enjoy. It's important to understand what triggers you for the holiday season and where those sources are. It could be memories, stressful patterns that seem to occur every holiday, new crises that come up that can be common triggers. There's a lot of things that, excuse me, we need to be mindful of during this time of year, what all the time really, but it's heightened during this time of year for a lot of us. So stay mindful and be aware of the triggers that are actually coming up. The second thing that actually can happen to a lot of us, and I have experienced this as well, is becoming overwhelmed by grief and by loss. So if you're living with grief, loss, trauma, or loneliness, it can actually compare your situation to others. When you compare your situations to others, it can increase the feelings of loneliness and sadness. So, say for instance, your friends are celebrating, your friends are out and about, they're shopping, they're excited about the holiday season, and you're not. You may be missing someone. You may be grieving the loss of a relationship, the loss of a job, any type of loss. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be considered traumatic for you. Loneliness is a feeling that is real, right? So again, and I'm speaking from a place of awareness because I felt like this at certain times in my life. However, sometimes seeing that other people are flourishing and leaning into the moment or the experience of the holidays does make you feel a little isolated at times because you're feeling sadness or loneliness and no one else is actually experiencing the moment that way. So check in with yourself and have realistic expectations for how your holiday season will look. If you're dealing with loss or grief, remind yourself that circumstances can change and that as circumstances change, traditions can change as well, right? You don't have to do things the way they've always been done. We have the ability to change and make choices for ourselves, right? Another thing you can do is you don't need to force yourself to celebrate, actually. You can connect and plan a check in with a support group or a faith community or your therapist or other people who are feeling the same way so that you're not feeling alone during that time. You can also let your loved ones know how they can support you. Sometimes they will understand and be okay with you not wanting to show up and not wanting to be involved in the holiday bustle. Sometimes they won't. But whether it's letting your loved ones know that you may need help with shopping or just going for a regular walk, whatever it is, you can talk hopefully to your loved ones and let them know how they can support you. The third one is if you're feeling pressure to participate in activities that you don't want any part of, right? We all have our own personal history with holidays. We dream about the way the holidays are supposed to be, which can be a dangerous perspective because we get caught up in wanting to do it all, but can't. You want to do it all, but you can't aim to set more real. You can aim to set more realistic expectations for yourself, as opposed to setting yourself up for failure or setting yourself up for disappointment. So accept your limitations. Be patient with others too. Other people may be having the same experience that you're having, and they just want the holiday to be what it is, right? Be patient with them. Understand that they have feelings, that they may be a little stressed out as well, and come to a place where you can have a conversation, right? Maybe you can prioritize the most important activities or schedule get-togethers for after the holidays when you feel a little better, right? If you feel overwhelmed by social obligations and what others are asking for of you, learn how to be comfortable with saying no. And that's big. Learn how to be comfortable with saying no. Expectations to celebrate holidays in a specific way can bring up old trauma or family conflicts. And for self care, consider outlining your plan for the season, right? It sounds wonky. It sounds like, why do I have to sit down and write down or plan out how I'm going to manage my visits or my phone calls or whatever the case may be? Well, that may be something you need to do to reduce the stress around the environment or around this time of year. Also, you may choose not to celebrate at all. And instead of spending the holidays the way you think you should, you may opt out and do another activity. Maybe make your favorite dish, maybe have a Netflix marathon with yourself. Regardless of your plans, it can be helpful to communicate to your friends and your family your intentions earlier on, so that everyone knows what to expect. No one's thrown for a loop when you decide to say, no, I'm not going to show up or I'm not going to be there, right? Try to foster that communication so there is a level of support that you have, and people will hopefully understand why you might be struggling during this time. The next point is being stressed about giving gifts. It's very common to get caught up in the commercialization and marketing of the holidays. And we could get stressed out a little or a lot about spending on a strained budget or trying to find just the right gift. Of course, we know advertisers will take advantage of our susceptibility, right? But we have the ability to put perspective in place and remind ourselves that we are the ones creating that anxiety, so that we are the ones who can reduce it. Just because the television or the web or the radio tells you you need certain things, or everyone must have this new thing, take that information and put it in perspective. Do you really need it? Do you really want it? Right? Does that person really need it? Giving to others is not about actually spending money. It's about the gift itself, the thought of it, right? What goes along with settling realistic expectations is maintaining a budget and being transparent about that as well. So another thing you can do is consider how much money you can comfortably spend and stick to that amount. Create the budget. If purchasing gifts for everyone is difficult, consider having a secret Santa. So you only have to get the gift for the person who you pick, right? Or you can simply let people know that you're unable to give gifts this year, and hopefully that they will understand that, because again, the season is not about the gift giving. It's about the state of mind, the state of your heart, right? And a gift does not have to be monetary. You can also give the gift of helping a neighbor, a friend, a family member, a stranger. It's the act of giving that is more important than an actual present. So our generosity can be a gift to ourselves, because when we focus on others and less on ourselves, we tend to reduce our anxiety as well. So if you're struggling with trying to figure out the gifts to give, trying to figure out where the money's coming from, take that down a little and think of it a different way. Think of yourself as a gift and how you show up in those situations, right? Number 5 is when there's not much sunlight and it's affecting your mood, or we know that as seasonal affective disorder. Of course, in the North, the holidays coincide with the lack of sunlight. And of course, some people with decreased sunlight can experience symptoms of depression. Sorry, I was going too fast in my brain. Sometimes decreased sunlight can cause people to experience symptoms of depression, right? Now, what you can do about that is get as much sunlight as possible, because seasonal affective disorder is real. If you are not able to get out into the sunlight, they have, I have a lamp that I use to still get the vitamin D when there's no sun outside. So you can boost your mood and regulate your sleep. Schedule outdoor exercise in the middle of the day when the sun is the brightest. If you work near a window, leave it open so you can get some air and the sunlight can actually come through. Even when you're changing around your home, or you're changing your decor, choose lighter colors, brighten up the environment so it will brighten up your mood, right? If you feel the need to slow your pace and hunker down, consider reframing the winter months as an opportunity to work on quieter projects or activities suited more for the indoors, like knitting or online courses or things like that. Now, I'm not minimizing the effects of seasonal affective disorder. If it is severe, and it's more severe, than the winter blues, that may mean that you may want to seek professional help, right? If you feel hopeless, if you're having suicidal thoughts, if your appetite changes or your sleep patterns change, you might want to speak to your physician or a therapist or another professional who will be able to diagnose and treat what's going on, right? But that seasonal affective disorder is real. It does happen, and sometimes it affects some people more than others, or more strongly than others. And the last thing I wanted to offer is when you're alone or you're feeling isolated, right? We have friends and family to connect with during the holiday. However, there's the danger of becoming isolated. If you're predisposed to depression or anxiety, it can be especially hard to reach out to others during this time of year. I myself know what that looks like when I get overwhelmed or stressed out or start overthinking and get in my head a little too much. I tend to go dark or quiet and turn inward to try to figure out what's going on with me. But I know for a fact that sometimes you need to reach out. Remind yourself of the people, places, and things that make you feel happy. Consider scheduling a regular call or video chat with friends on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, whenever they're available, so that you don't have to think twice about making that effort, right? The effort to call, the effort to speak, the effort to reach out for help is a lot sometimes. But we need to take advantage of the other ways to connect so that that communication does not wane, and people know exactly what you're experiencing during this time of year, right? You can also take on calming activities such as reading, meditating, gratitude journaling. They can be helpful if you're not comfortable in social situations. Don't forget about your self-care, the importance of a balanced diet, moderate exercise, adequate sleep. There are so many distractions and stressors that can come up during this time of the year that we actually can lose sight of the basics. And again, I am guilty of that. The basics My therapist, gets on me about the basics. Did you eat? Did you go to bed at a reasonable time? Are you getting enough sleep? Have you been outside to see the air? I mean, to get some air and see the sun, things of that nature. We need to take care of ourselves and pay increased attention during this time of year, especially when we get closer to the holidays. So when you get to feeling like some of these things are challenges to you, remember that there are things that you can do to counteract them, right? So I know that was a little longer than usual, but I thought that those 6 things and the things that you can actually do to counteract them were really helpful. And I wanted to share that information with you. I will put the link to the article in the comments after this live has ended. And I appreciate each and every one of you for being here and taking the time to participate in the Empowered Pause. Look out for our holiday newsletter that should be out within the next week. We have an event coming up that we are excited about. We called Mindful Path, the holiday hiatus. It is a 4-week program that will go into movement, sound therapy, journaling, art, and creative ways to journey, especially through the holiday season right now. That information will be on our website as well as in the newsletter that is coming up. Look out for that. And also, if you have not purchased your Team Speak shirt yet, Team Speak, if you can see all of it, Team Speak with our custom design on the back, those shirts are available until December 31st. All proceeds from those purchases go to the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, and you'll get to have a custom Speak Initiative shirt, and the funds are actually going to a good cause. Also, lastly, we have another fundraiser that is coming up. Then all proceeds from that will go directly to Speak Initiative. We are in the process of designing another shirt with another unique design on the back, hopefully. And that item will be launched on Giving Tuesday, which is next Tuesday. I mean, not next Tuesday, November 28th. November 28th is Giving Tuesday, and our new apparel will be available that day as well. So thank you so much for taking the time today to sit with me and go through holidays and mental health. As always, I appreciate your time. Please follow, like, share, comment, react. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe and like the video. And everywhere else, I hope to see you again in the near future. Until next time, take care.